I mean, every sales guy or girl is motivated by money without a doubt. It goes without saying. But if that's your only motivation, they're just going to leave once your competitor gives them $5 more.
Right.
It's there's got to be some other motivator or driver. One of my favorite leaders, this guy Barry Sarowine. Barry, he would when he would have to let people go, people would apologize. I mean, I know these guys, and they would tell me these can't. They'd apologize to Barry. They felt bad that they let him down. He's they're getting fired, and they're actually apologizing, not getting mad. That's a leader.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Making Sales Social. I'm your host, Bryn Tillman, and I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest. Rich Rosen, the founder of Cornerstone Search, specializes in sales and leadership placement for venture and PE-backed SaaS companies, and has personally placed nearly 1,200 professionals throughout his career. His one-person firm has impressively ranked among the Forbes top 50 recruiting firms in America for 5 consecutive years, peaking at number 11, which is my lucky number, out of 38,000 competitors. Rich's direct and straightforward approach has also earned him an invitation to the prestigious Pinnacle Society, where he serves on the board alongside the top 80 recruiters in the nation. Today, Rich will share his valuable insights on navigating the recruiting landscape and building successful teams. Rich, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for being had. Sorry, that was not yet. We'll see how that goes. Um, so I'm glad we start with a chuckle. That's good. So before we jump into your genius, we ask all of our guests one question, which is, what does making sales social mean to you?
It's a great question. I think, what is sales, making it social. I just think, listen, it's especially as a recruiter, it's all social. It's all about networking. I mean, I always find it funny when other salespeople get like mad or jealous or angry at another rep or recruiter or whatever that's doing really well. Like I always get happily jealous of them because I know, all right, if I'm having a bad month, it's fixable. So I think it takes a it's sales is tough, man. It takes a village. It's fun to have peers you can lean on. So
Oh, I love that. So that's great. Awesome. Well, let's dive into kind of your expertise with nearly 30 years in sales recruitment for SaaS companies.
startup SaaS companies, all startups, even crazier.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What key sales leadership traits have you consistently found to drive success in these go-to-market teams?
I think from a leadership standpoint, I think that the market is sorely missing a lot of leadership right now. But I think, I look for clients that are, the leaders are really inspirational. They empower their folks, they appreciate their team. They're not worried about, hey, did you make 10, going to pay a rep 150, $175,000 on a base, and then worry about whether he made 10 calls today or 50 calls today. They're actually looking at the results and what are you doing strategically. Yeah, you got to set up your drip campaigns and all that fun stuff, but you're, if you're not empowering your reps, you're just going to micromanage them. Hire an SDR. It's a waste of time. You're going to burn them out. They're not going to do well for you, and you're going to kind of look like a putz as a leader. You know.
Huh?
So,
I think that's fair. So and you have the reputation and chops to say that because your firm has a track record of placing high performing sales leaders.
absolutely.
What common qualities do the leaders share, particularly in that fast-paced startup SaaS environment?
I mean, the good the good leaders. There's a lot of bad traits for the bad leaders. The good leaders. I mean, listen, they make decisions quickly, and they also fire quickly. And it doesn't mean you just the guy had a bad month, so you let him go. But listen, in a startup world, you can't afford to let someone go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months before they understand your product. but you've also, as a leader, need to have it set up for success. You've got to be able to have them walk in there and have a bit of a boot camp or a training material, and steps to the process, where hey, week one, we're going to do this, week two, we're going to do this. And where by the day 30, they should be on the phones. They should be doing some kind of outbound outreach. If your product is that complex and you're a month in it, they still can't give even a basic pitch on it, you may want to reconsider that hire personally. But I think so many companies hire these people and they just got to feed them to the wolves. They're like, well, here's the phone, here's the website, and have at it. And it's a recipe for disaster. So,
so one of the things that I really focus on, obviously, is LinkedIn and vetting vendors and vetting, whomever it is that I want to work with, even, vetting clients, right? Like I'm looking on LinkedIn. The interesting thing for me is when I'm looking at, um, a client and if they're going to be successful in the niche that they came to me with, I'll look at their relationships. Like, where are they? Do you do that in recruiting? When you're looking at bringing on a successful salesperson, are you looking at their LinkedIn relationships as part of that?
yes and no. I mean, I'll look into it, see where it's at. It's more to see who are they tied to that I may not have a lot of respect for. And
Oh.
because I'm very picky on who I work with. I don't want to. Like a lot of recruiters will take any job that comes their way. I think it's a waste of time. Just like any sales rep, they should be picky on who they're going to spend their time focused on. And not go down a path that's going to go nowhere. It's a big busy versus productive, type mentality. So if I know you are tied to Joe Blow, and I know Joe Blow treats his people like absolute garbage, and he has massive turnover, and he's just a good old boy, he's network kind of guy. I usually ask him, I'm like, hey, how close are you to so and so? And then yeah, a lot of times I'll tell him, I'm like, oh, honestly, if this is how you work, I'm probably not your guy. Um, I want to work with clients and candidates that actually want to get ahead, want to do things the right way, not just run people over for a nickel. And it sounds counterproductive, but man, I've seen so many companies get destroyed by that kind of culture. And it's great. It's not usually great for me, but it's great for some people. But I think it's a valuable part of the hiring, especially when you're building out teams. You want guys that are hungry and aggressive, and in theory will do whatever they're going to do. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, in my opinion. So
Yeah, and it's your reputation too, right? You have a track record of these high performing sales leaders, and the people that you're placing do exceptionally well. If they're not happy, they're not going to do well.
well, that's it. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think, if you want the most out of your sales guys, you don't have to be the screamer and yeller. You got to be the guy that's compassionate and says, hey, listen, you want your team to feel bad for you if they let you down. They're disappointed, like you let your dad down, kind of thing. And those are the reps that flourish and crush their numbers. And they have, as a manager, you have lower turnover. You get a lower turnover. Well, you're probably going to do better. Your numbers are going to be better. You're going to thrive in your company. You're going to shine. And if you're dealing with startups, your VCs are going to notice that, hey, how is the whatever East region doing so much better? How is their turnover? They've lost one guy in 3 years versus the West that's had a guy, new people coming in every year. It's a huge difference in your ability to earn, because that first year in sales, it's a lot of building, and if you don't have to rebuild and rehire and retrain, it just seems like it's more money in the bank. So treat them like gold. Retention, people overlook the importance of retention. And it sounds so basic and simple, but they do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's so important. I think a challenge is matching a sales professional with a culture.
100%.
So, what are some of the things that you do with your clients to ensure that when you are bringing them candidates, that there's likely a culture fit?
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of get to know my clients. Like, I'm a big believer my clients will treat me like they're going to treat the people they're hiring. So if they're not going to give me time, they're not going to give their reps time, and that's a huge flag. If you're too busy to talk to me, you're going out to the market and trying to find that right fit for you, listen, there's going to be questions we've got to ask, right? The discovery call, just like when you're selling anything. And in that call, you kind of learn what this person's like, what makes them tick. And I mean, I've had managers that I've placed, upwards of 50, 60 plus people with and built out like the early days of Tableau or Aptio or other, really super successful companies. And to your earlier question too, what stands out for all those companies, it's because the leadership actually spent time. It wasn't like, uh, listen, just go get me that box of Cheerios off, and we'll bring that guy on, right? There's actually conversations that have to be had when you're hiring, and the more someone knows about the hiring manager, and the more open that hiring manager is with the candidate, the better chance you have of landing that all star. If you're think you're too good because you have a fancy title, you're probably not getting the best candidates on the market or candidates that people in your space that are looking, unless you got something incredible that you're just going to pay them off with. So
Yeah, and that's when your full motivation is money, you're not getting the best out of your people.
ever,
Yeah,
ever. I mean, every sales guy or girl is motivated by money without a doubt. It goes without saying. But if that's your only motivation, they're just going to leave once your competitor gives them $5 more.
right.
It's there's got to be some other motivator or driver, and that's why, without a doubt, as I said, being a leader that inspires people. I mean, I've had people that I've got one of my favorite leaders, this guy Barry Sarowine, who built the enterprise team for Tableau. Like, Barry, when he would have to let people go, people would apologize. I mean, I know these guys, and they would tell me these can't. They'd apologize to Barry. They felt bad that they let him down. They're getting fired, and they're actually apologizing, not getting mad. That's a leader. You
That's
know,
amazing.
that's to me
Yeah.
is what you want out of your leader. Otherwise, you're just a manager. You're managing numbers. You're managing, processes. It can work, but it's not nearly as fun.
So what are some of the things that when you're pre-interviewing these candidates, right? You're deciding which client will this candidate best fit, and you're playing that. What are one or two questions that you ask them that's not a typical question that helps you to figure out where they're going to fit best?
It's more just conversation.
Okay.
I'm very laid back. Everyone asks the same questions. Hey, how'd you do? What'd you make? How'd you do? Whatever. But it's I'll try to go into the depth of how because most of my clients want hunters. Place a lot of account managers too, but a lot of account executives and a lot of sales leaders. And it's really, if it's a sales leader, I always want to ask about retention. Because again, like I said earlier, if you've got people that stay with you, that's a telling stat that I find most
Mhm.
CEOs don't even ask about on interviews. But think about how much money that can save you and how much energy it saves a company again. So I like to go into about the retention, how they retain people, and then obviously how they built their teams and what the strategies are for growth that they've used and how flexible they are. And on reps, it's really tell me about like, how you got into your deals. And if they start with, well, I got an inbound lead, they're probably not the biggest hunter. you know,
Right. Right.
so it's their answers are way more important than the questions sometimes. And
Mhm.
it's the old age, adage of, hey, it's more the questions they ask me. Are they showing curiosity? Do they have intellectual interest in anything? Do they stay on top of podcasts? I'm willing to bet 90% of reps don't listen to podcasts or read a book, which is a little scary sometimes. You know,
Yeah, I do. I ask that often. What are the podcasts you're listening to? What was the last podcast you
yeah,
listened to? Yeah, I think that's really important.
yeah.
Um, so I love that you're asking that. I think that's awesome. So I want to go back just for a moment. So I'm a startup SaaS company, couple years in, just got Series A, and they're telling me I need to build my sales team out. I've got two sales reps, right? And I'm the sales leader.
Hmm.
So what does that process look like? I call you and what do we do?
So, I love it. So, they'll call me. It's always my favorite. So, we do a whole deep dive discovery. Is that I can do it in 15 minutes. I can do it over in 3 hours. I have an unlimited amount of questions to ask. The more information I have, the better. Once I understand what you guys are doing, what the right person looks like, and kind of get to the why was the company founded in the first place? Why, do we think we need this person? A lot of companies are like, hey, we need to have, someone from our domain. And like if it's a startup, it's in theory, it sounds great. It'd be great to have someone that has sold, whatever, DevOps software. But if they've sold, other stuff into engineering or dev, a tangible solution to DevOps or whatever, or ERP, and they've sold business intelligence or something, some tangential solution. I'd rather if you get a guy or girl that is a killer hunter and prospector, and they have the drive that you want and that startup mentality, awesome. But reality is, you really just need the startup mentality and the drive. So I always try to figure out really, are you open to the best athlete, or does the best athlete have to have domain expertise? And I don't know. I'm willing to bet my house that a good driven sales rep can figure out any product, but a good product rep who only knows X is is fine. But if things get bumpy and they can't sell to their current clients because you're selling a competitive solution now that you just left, you're back to hunting, and they may not really like to hunt, but they know their product really well. So it's got value, but how much? Not as much as you
Yeah,
probably.
my head, I'm listening to you, my head goes to Moneyball,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Like it's about the right people in the right spot. They don't have to be the best at that, but they have to be the best at what you need to get that done. So,
Well, and I think just having a solid sales process is so important.
mhm.
And most of these reps don't have it, or they're reliant on inbound leads, marketing qualified leads, or anything. But they don't want to do the pipeline generation. And if you're a hunter, sorry, you got to do
Yeah.
PG. And if you're an enterprise rep, don't tell me you don't have time, at least throughout the week to make a certain amount of calls or do a certain amount of things. Because I know hundreds of thousands of enterprise reps, and I can tell you they play a lot of golf. and, and yeah, you can be doing business on the golf course, but
Not at scale.
yeah, exactly. So there's
Yeah.
always time to get things done you want to get done, and no one wants to do PG is the problem. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the reasons I love to look at their network. Like, who are they already connected to, and what are their relationships? Because likely they're okay reaching out to those folks,
exactly.
right? So if they already have a strong network, there's a good chance they'll get some.
Yeah, they'll get some calls, but the problem I always find when people are looking at networks as a main focus, it's great. We all have a network. I've got 30,000 first level connections on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I can promise you not all 30,000 people are getting back to me. I wish they would. So if you're watching, but the end of the day is, I'll ask candidates especially. I'm like, all right, who are the 5 people you can have a beer with tomorrow? All right, and most of them struggle. You know,
Wow.
But start asking, you'll be surprised. Yeah, they have a huge network, but how many are getting back to them like that? And just because you have the network in, financial services, well, maybe they don't need what you're selling now. Maybe they just bought a competitor's product a year ago. So the network it's good. It's a great starter for 30, 60 days. But after that, then what? Now you're back to hunting and pipeline generation. So
Or second degrees, who can they introduce you to?
of
That
course,
that that's my world, right? Like that's where I play. How do you earn the right to get the conversation even when they're not interested?
That's the $1 million one, exactly. But
Yeah,
to do it from an interview standpoint, I mean, it's so hard to judge on that. I mean, so it's because sales guys talk, right? That's what they do. So they'll
that's
tell you
right.
what you want to hear. But I just think hiring based on a network is it can be dicey.
Limiting.
It is. It gives you a false sense of security. You know,
Interesting. That's good to hear, because I stress that a lot. So I guess that there needs to be I think there needs to be a balance in everything we do. You can
Sure.
never have one string to the result.
There's no perfect process in hiring. And you're hiring
Yeah.
salespeople. I mean, they should have some knowledge, network, and when they have a knowledge of your domain. And listen, there's no question that's benefit. But again,
Yeah.
I sell across all of software, and I'm selling ERPs in the morning and AI DevOps in the afternoon that have nothing to do with each other, other than good salespeople could sell either. So it's and they do. I've got a lot of like reps that I know that have done the $2 million W-2s multiple times. They won't sell the same solution twice, at least not twice in a row. If they spend 4 years at company A, they're not going to company A's competitor the next 4 years.
Well, they probably can't reach out to those folks for the same product.
Exactly.
However, if there's a new product that those people can use.
Yeah, exactly. But that's
Yeah.
why if I'm selling you ERP today and I closed 2 million, I did a $2 million W-2, and now I'm selling whatever, some CX solution. Well, yeah, I can go back to those people, can I?
Yeah.
Maybe I know the domain, but I don't know that CX product set. Right. So in that case, it can work out great, assuming they need CX solutions,
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
This was great. This was great. So the last question I'm going to ask you, or really the second to last question, is what question did I not ask you that I should have?
always a great question. I know you asked really good questions. I think let's see, that is a good question. What question should you have asked? I think just I don't really know. I don't have a good answer for that. It's like
If I were to be a leading into this, it would be essentially what is the mindset of a company that's moving from CEO-led sales teams into something like
yeah,
sales
if you're
leadership?
like a founder led to a leadership cell,
Would
I
be
think
good.
listen, yeah, I mean, I think listen, leading, bringing on your first your first real leader after getting into a founder, it's really got to be a culture fit. Culture is king. You've got to, and the founder has to be willing to let go, and that's as a candidate, that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing you got to judge. Is this person really going to trust me? And how are they going to trust me? And then and you got to test. I would be talking to the VCs. If I'm a candidate, I'm talking to the VC about this, the leader. I want to talk to people maybe he's worked with in the past too, even because listen, does this guy really want to let go? And
Mhm.
we all know a lot of these founders that don't.
Yeah, they're micromanaging their baby for sure. Yeah.
It's you always want to understand, does the CEO who maybe sold this product to friends and family, um, does he understand that, listen, selling your own baby is different than someone else coming, just learning it and starting to sell it. It's a different mindset. You're selling to a personal friend or network, or even someone that your VC
Yeah.
makes connections to, far different. Do they truly understand, that the difference in those sales processes? That's if I'm a candidate coming in, that's what CRO coming in, or that first, VP of sales. Those are the questions I want to get answered. So,
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Rich. Please, if we have listeners out there saying either I'm looking for a new sales opportunity or we are looking for sales leadership, how do people get in touch with you?
yeah, best way, you can follow me on LinkedIn. It's Rich Rosen, Cornerstone Search. Best way is follow me on LinkedIn, and I try to get back to everyone, but my number's there too. So if we can help you guys, fill some roles, AEs, reps, I do everything go to market for startups.
Love
So
it.
let
Well,
me know.
thank you so much. I think you brought a lot of value to our listeners, and I really appreciate your insights.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. It's great.
Oh, it was so much fun. And so, for all of you folks out there, when you are out and about, don't forget to make your sales social.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.